All right, so I've had this PRS SE Studio Standard for about 5, almost 6 months now. And I thought it would be worthwhile to kind of revisit the guitar, as this is probably one of the PRS SEs that I've kept for longest. And this is, I think I counted up the other day, I've had 6 different models of the SE that I've owned personally. And then I've also had, a handful of ones that I've also borrowed from a friend for kind of extended periods of time. So I feel like I know the SE range pretty well. And I can definitely say that this guitar is my favorite that I've had in the SE range. And part of that is the configuration of the guitar. It's basically an HSS Strat, which is kind of my favorite type of guitar. But there's a few things on this that make it a little bit different than kind of a typical Strat style guitar that I also like quite a bit. One of them is you've got a mahogany body, which I think adds a little bit of a different tonality to it. You've got a 25-inch scale length rather than the 25.5-inch scale length. That's something that definitely changes this from the SE Silver Sky. Basically, this is exactly like the NF3, except you get the 5815 humbucker in the bridge rather than another narrow field for a single coil. You can tap the humbucker to get a single coil like tone. I don't love the 5815 kind of in single coil mode. I think if you're looking for a guitar like this and you want more single coil tones in the bridge, I'd go for the NF3 over the Studio, but I like having the humbucker in the bridge. If you've seen any of my videos on the PRS SE guitars, a lot of my feedback tends to be pretty consistent. They're very well made. The fretwork is always really well done, although anything with a maple fretboard can get a lot of fret sprout pretty early on. The rosewood does really well in that regard. My main complaints typically fall around how the nut is cut and the tuners. I will say these tuners are my favorite kind of type of SE tuner. They tend to feel and operate, I think, a little better than some of the other ones. And on this particular guitar, the nut is cut pretty well. It seems to me that in the last few SE guitars I've had, the nut has been improving. So maybe that's something they've been working on. So overall, this is a very well-made guitar. I've been super happy with it. I like it because it's bringing the things I like about kind of Fender style guitars and mixing it really well with the PRS. You've got the shorter scale length, which to me feels really good. I really like the control layout. I'm not a big fan of where PRS typically puts the pickup selector switches, which is usually kind of over in here. I like this kind of Strat style. It's right here where I want it. And I've got the volume, I've got my tone. And these pickups just sound really good. The narrow fields are a pretty good single coil approximation. They're not a perfectly pure single coil, and maybe they're a little hotter than your typical single coil, but they sound really good. The in-between positions sound like a Strat. And the 8515 is a great kind of PAF style humbucker. There is obviously the regular SE Studio. That's not the standard model, but it's the Studio. It has a set neck where this is a bolt-on neck, and it also has kind of a maple top to it. That guitar is going to be slightly different. I think when you go to the set neck construction, you're going to get a little bit of a different feel from the guitar than you will from the bolt-on construction. So let's go ahead and just run through some tones and kind of reacquaint ourselves with this guitar. So right now I've got my Neural DSP Quad Cortex, and right now I'm running a preset that's a mix of some Tone King Imperial captures with some Friedman Dirty Shirley captures. So here's a clean tone. This tone is edge of breakup. With my Strats, it stays pretty clean. With this guitar, it gets more crunchy. So these pickups definitely have a little more output than my Strat style guitars. If we go to the 4 position, you get a nice quack out of it. And the 2 position, even with the bridge in humbucker mode, still has kind of a little bit of that Strat style sound to it. And then obviously with the humbucker, if we tap it, it's not too bad. So a lot of really good tones if we had a little more gain, maybe go to like a low gain, dumbly kind of sound. It does really well for those kind of bluesy tones. You go to a higher gain, martially kind of rhythm. If you turn the gain down on that Marshall, kind of go for that glassy Strat style thing. You know, this guitar can do that pretty well, that Strat neck into that Marshall. It sounds pretty good. And then if you just want to go much more high gain, so it does really well with that kind of range of tones. So if we want to try maybe a higher gain tone, I've switched my preset. I'm using the Gojira plugin on the Quad Cortex. So it does pretty good with the higher gain stuff too. You know, if we do that lead tone with the neck pickup. It'll do that as well. So I really think that this guitar, you know, outside of getting to the kind of super heavy metal kind of tones, it'll give you all those ranges. You can do everything from that kind of pure clean all the way up to kind of a heavier 5150 kinds of tones. So it's a really versatile guitar, and I think it's a really good option if you're looking for a kind of all-in-one kind of guitar in the SE lineup. So maybe just as a kind of a crazy comparison, let's go ahead and I'm going to go back to a clean tone on this guitar, and I'm going to switch back and forth on the single coil tones between this guitar and my Fender Strat. So here we are, pure clean tone, a little bit delayed in reverb, and I'm on the neck pickup. So, you know, a little bit of a crazy comparison because there's a huge price difference between these guitars, but, you know, this is a Fender custom shop Strat with hand wound custom shop Fat 50s pickups in it. And I really do think that the single coils, the narrow fields on the studio, they hold up. You know, obviously there is a difference. The pure single coils are a little bit lower output and give a little more touch sensitivity. You know, the narrow fields tend to push a little bit more, but they sound pretty good. You know, I think as single coils go, these obviously they have more output. They're a little bit darker, and that obviously comes through. But I think it also makes this kind of a more versatile guitar because they can mimic that, you know. It's almost like the neck humbucker kind of tone. But overall, like I said, I really, really like this guitar. For me, it's been my favorite PRS SE that I've owned and or even played. You know, and I think if you're looking for an affordable Strat style guitar, I would put this up against, you know, the Made in Mexico Fenders and the Schecters and the Sires and everything. They're in the same price range. I think it really does well. I've been super happy with it. You know, again, I don't think I have any really complaints about it. So probably the only thing I might criticize is, you know, the choice of colors they have for this specific guitar are a little different. I like this color, especially like it with kind of this more streaky rosewood that I picked out. You know, some of the rosewoods you can find on this guitar are much darker. This one was more streaky, but I thought the more streaky rosewood with this color looked pretty cool. But they're definitely not your kind of standard Strat colors. They're a little bit different, but I like that. I think it's pretty cool. But overall, I'm super happy with it. I know they're running sales in these right now. So again, if you're looking for an affordable kind of HSS Strat style guitar, I would give this a look before you pull the trigger on a Fender or something else. So I hope you found this helpful. And as always, thanks for watching.